Hi there, and welcome along to another bonus preview edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, a totally free and independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans. And as we know, the free content doesn't just stop with the podcast, but if you head over to our website at www.gersnet.co.uk, you'll find all sorts of great content, including the very friendly discussion forum, some articles, a history archive, some social media match previews, reviews, all sorts of stuff over there. So please do head over to the website. If you're joining us live, it's just gone 9 p.m. on Wednesday, the 29th of September. And thank you very much for giving up your Wednesday evening. Please do give us your questions, your comments and your thoughts in the YouTube chat box there. And if you want to keep us up to date with the Champions League scores, that would be very much appreciated as well. If you're not joining us live, the podcast is always available for download the following morning. That's on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and also on Spotify. So please do give us a like and a subscribe. We're here to talk about the game tomorrow in the Europa League, the second round of fixtures in our group, which is Rangers away at Sparta Prague. Rangers touchdown in the Czech capital this afternoon, and by all accounts, it looks like it'll be a really closely fought and entertaining contest tomorrow. So we're here to look ahead to that. And I've got two excellent guests lined up to do so. First of all, joining me, Gary. It's only been a couple of days since we last spoke. It's Gary Valentine. How are you keeping, Gary?
Yeah, not bad.
Fantastic. You've got, I take it you're not on babysitting duty tomorrow at 5 to 6 p.m.
No, I'm fine now.
Excellent. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Subject to change.
Yeah, that's always the way. Always the way. Gary will be coming in a few moments' time. But first of all, we will be talking with our correspondent from Prague, and judging by his webcam, it looks like he's coming to us from the Sparta dressing room. We're very privileged to have Jan Šťastný from the Spartanské noviny website. Jan, thank you so much for giving up your time. How are you, and how's things in Prague?
Hello guys, good evening. Thanks for having me. Weather is very good in Prague. It's not that cold as it was last year. As I heard. So it's pretty good.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. Now, Sparta is undoubtedly one of the sort of famous old historic names of European football, and a really rich and storied history. But I think in recent times, as Rangers fans, we kind of owe your club a little bit of thanks for what you managed to do to Celtic last season. Still one of the most entertaining rounds of fixtures that I've ever seen, given how your squad was decimated with COVID at the time, and still managed to turn them over. So from me and from all of the Rangers family, thank you to Sparta Prague for humiliating them so comprehensively. It was great to watch.
Anytime.
Super. Well, Jan, since you've given up your time, we'll spend the first 10-15 minutes of the show looking at Sparta and the threats that they could pose us, and any insight you can give us as Rangers fans. I guess the first question that we have for you is, and this is for anyone, by the way, I should say, who's not headed over already to the Gersnet website, where there's a really, really fantastic preview article written by Jan. It's really worth a read. But Jan, for anyone who's not seen that yet, could you maybe give us some insight into the style of play that Sparta are likely to bring tomorrow?
So our current coach is Pavel Vrba, a former coach of Victoria Plzeň or Czech national team. Everywhere he goes, he basically delivers this, or he wants to play the same style, which is 2-4-3-1. Every time the same, never changes. I don't expect to change tomorrow either. The style of play, he always wants to be attacking. His kind of mentality is that if you score more than you concede, you're still gonna win. So obviously we love that. Everybody loves that, right? But to be fair, we haven't really shown that recently, even though if you look at our last result away against Lille, which we won 5-2, you might think that we are still going like 100% attack and stuff, but it's not the case, unfortunately. We had many injuries, many injured players, many key players are injured right now, and it's a big question mark of who's gonna play. So actually, when I wrote that piece, I wrote some expected lineup the way as I expected the time. But today on the open training for press and on the press conference, Pavel Vrba mentioned that there might be some surprise. So some injured player might come into play. I don't know who's going to be because, we have so many. But probably the most famous name, I would say, in our current squad, Bořek Dočkal, our captain and former captain of the national team of the Czech Republic, he was training, and without anything, he trained 100%. So that could be potentially one of the players to come in to play after some time, but we will see tomorrow.
It's when you say a team that likes to attack and likes to score more goals, given that I guess the shakiness and the fragility that our defence has shown so far this season, plus the news that we received in the last few hours that probably our key talismanic centre back Connor Goldson didn't even travel to Prague this afternoon. It kind of fills me with a little bit of worry, I guess. In terms then of key players and key threats and the areas of strength of Sparta, would you say then that your best players are the attacking players, your creative players, or is it a strong and resolute defence?
For sure, our attacking is our strength. Although, if you look at the names in our back, in the defense line, we don't have bad names. We have Ondřej Čeluska, Czech national team player. We have David Hansko, Slovakian national team player. So they're not bad names, but again, it's a question of how we're gonna put the defense back together. If Polidar is fine, and we can have Hansko and Čeluska as a two center backs, that's basically the biggest strength for us. So that could be very interesting. Question mark will be on the right back, where it's usually the Windheim or Wiesner. We will see. Most probably Windheim, he's not for sure a bad player, but he's very good on a forward, not so good in defense. So that could be interesting. And the same goes for Wiesner. So it doesn't really matter who's going to be there, but that side, it can be a bit tricky for us. In the forward line, yes, we have I would say our generation talent, Adam Hložek. I think when I did a podcast with Brand Defense, they mentioned that they bought Hložek in Fantasy, in a Football Manager story, and that he did amazing things. And yes, indeed, he is an incredible talent. However, in the style of Pavel Vrba, where he's a lone striker in a 2-4-3-1, I'm not 100% sure that's the best, that it suits him the best. So far, he kind of... Okay, he scored some goals, I think 2 or 3, and he was a bit unlucky. Like in the game against Monaco, he scored a regular goal, but it was disallowed due to offside, which wasn't. But anyway, the goal, was taken away. So we'll see how he's gonna do. What I would say for sure is very interesting to watch is our wingers. We have Jakub Pešek playing on one of the wings. He can play on both. Both are very versatile, so they can switch during the game. Doesn't matter. Jakub Pešek, maybe Scottish fans remember him in the game Czech Republic against Scotland, the game where we were beaten by the COVID, and we had to form the team within like 1 or 2 days. So Jakub Pešek, that time he was not yet in Sparta. He was still in Liberec. But he was there and he scored the one and only goal that we managed to score against you. So he's gonna be, and he's a very, very good offensive player. He has numbers as well. In 9 games, he scored 4 goals. So not bad at all. And on the other side, we will have most probably Lukáš Haraslín, a Slovakian international player. Very, very fast, and he also scored a goal now, so he kind of improved his self-esteem. And on the bench you have David Meber Karlsson, who if it is his day and if he wants to really perform 100%, he's the best winger in our Czech league by far. He's not on 100% of his form right now. That's why most probably he's going to be a substitute, but he's still a very, very dangerous player. And for us, it can be very interesting to see if he's going to be really on the bench and he's going to come in later on to see how he does with a maybe a little bit tired defense. That could be a very, very powerful weapon on our side.
It's interesting what you say about the squad being ravaged by injuries at the moment, and that's something that we are feeling as well. Some of our probably biggest talents with Ryan Kent, Connor Goldson missing, Ryan Jack, one of our Scottish centre midfields, currently injured as well. There's a lot of players out for both sides, so it'll be interesting, I guess, to contrast this game against the return leg in Glasgow in a month or two. Looking then, Jan, at the way that the season so far has started for Sparta, obviously we'll have kept an eye on the European game against Brøndby and a goalless draw that ended up in. But I think I'm right in saying you're sitting third in the table at the moment. Although again, I think Slavia might have a game in hand and could extend that a little bit. How do the Sparta fans feel that the season has started so far?
The start was good. We won everything. We managed to beat Rapid Wien in the qualifications to the Champions League. So that secured us a group stage of Europa League, which was the goal for the season. So far, so good. But then international break came in. Before that, we made a draw with Bohemians, another club which is in Prague. Bit unfortunate draw, but yeah, that happens. After that was international break. And after international break, I don't really know what happened, but we just kind of lost the self-esteem, I would say, a bit, and we were unlucky many times, and we went to Plzeň, where we just played so awful. It was a horrible game. Okay, the final score was 3-2 for Plzeň, so that doesn't maybe seem that horrible, but it could have been 5-0, 5-1, 6-1. Like really, they had so many chances, and we just played really bad. And I would say, or the way I see it, I was so, for Plzeň, it's like it's a team that currently has financial issues. Because they didn't make it to Europe for the, I think, third or maybe fourth time in a row, and they are almost fully dependent on the money coming in from UEFA, from the European competition. So they are in a very bad financial state. Some say that they have money literally until the end of this calendar year, and that's it. So they need to have a new owner or some big sponsor or whatever. So from putting all this in perspective, we said, okay, now we will finally win there. Like, this is our time, right? And we played so poorly there, and since then, okay, we advanced in a League Cup and we beat Zlín in last weekend, but still the taste is not really good. And I would say it didn't help the game in Denmark, because we are a little bit better than Brøndby, and I think we should have won. There were some 2 huge chances that we should have scored. But at the same time, after the game, when we heard the coach and the players, they were basically, not happy, but they were like, okay, it's a draw from away, it's okay. And that, that just gives me the goosebumps, because Sparta, I was born in the 80s. I remember Sparta in the 90s, where we were just winning almost every year, the local championships. We were in the Champions League, and if we didn't get to the Champions League, it was a big failure, So now, looking at all this, we're third in the league, and then we made a draw and in Denmark, okay, against Danish champion, sure, but they just didn't play well. I'm sorry to say to Brøndby fans, but they just didn't play well. And I hate to kind of compare these styles and the different country footballs, but I reckon if they would play in a Czech league, they would be like, I don't know. If they would be in the middle, I would be even nicer surprised. So we should definitely win there. And the thing that we cannot take it as, but 1 point is good. And then what our coach said, and that worries me maybe the most, because he said, well, the point from away might be actually good if we win against Rangers at home. So then we have 4 points, and it's actually not that bad. But we are kind of fragile from psychological point of view. We can see the goal, and you can see the players head down, and just the mentality is not there. It's just not well. It's not right. So we basically put ourselves under pressure, because now we have to win. Because if we don't win, then the point from Denmark is just not good enough. So
yeah, interesting. I guess then that brings me to my next question, which is the Sparta fans' perspective on the group when the group was drawn, obviously with Brøndby, Rangers, and Lyon, and now where we are after this first round of fixtures. I mean, what is the aim for Sparta? Is it to qualify out of the group? Is it to win the group? And how do you see that going?
I would say, and this is what I really like to repeat everywhere I go, and I like to say to everyone that I meet, regardless of they're Sparta fan, they are from Czech Republic or from anywhere else, Sparta in the Czech Republic is the biggest club, is the oldest one with the biggest number of trophies and everything, simply the most successful club. That being said, we have to aim for the highest possibilities there are. Tomáš Rosický and Pavel Roba both said that they would like to play Champions League. If we want to play Champions League, obviously not right now, but maybe in a year or two, we'll see, then we just have to aim again the highest. I respect Lyon, I respect Rangers, and obviously I respect Brøndby, but I see we have to have the fight for the second place. That's our goal for sure. And I would say, okay, I don't want to say anything. If you don't end up second and we will be third, it still means we can continue in Europe, even though in a conference league, in the playoffs, right? But for me, it would be like a failure to me. I want to finish second.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting dynamic, obviously, with Sparta picking up a point in Denmark. Rangers, we lost our opening game 2-0 against Lyon at home in Glasgow, and Lyon are a good side. I mean, we possibly didn't appreciate how good until we started looking ahead to the game, and we look at the international superstars that they have in their squad. I mean, that is a really, really strong team. So I think Rangers and Sparta will be the two teams really vying for that second place now. That seems to be the way that the group is shaping up. Jan, before I let you go, my final question. Having looked at your fixtures, I noticed that you have a bit of a derby coming up this coming weekend. So you'll know from Rangers in Europe last year, Slavia Prague is no friend of ours. Very, very unsavoury incidents on the field, off the field. They put us out of the Europa League last year. I don't know much about the dynamic of Czech football and Prague football, but I can't imagine they're your favourite team either. Is there any possibility of, I guess, either the Sparta players, the Sparta management team having one eye on that fixture, or the fans wanting the team to prioritise the derby at the weekend over the game against Rangers? I guess the question is what means more and which is the more important tie?
I would say both equally the same. Like, we want to be successful, and as you also mentioned, I think the same. As I said, I think we will fight for the second place, Sparta against Rangers, and also that's why this game is so important, right? Because if we lose or if you draw, we are in a big disadvantage, because then we have the game in Glasgow. So it's for sure there will be no player, if he's ready, he's going to play. For sure, nobody's going to be safe because there is derby. We want to win both games, obviously, but this mentality for sure is not there. And also, just after that is international break, so not that many players are in a nomination, so they will have time to rest and stuff. So yeah.
It's interesting, just so much of what you've said about the state of the squad, the mentality. We haven't started the season in the way that we finished last year. Last year was all conquering for us. It was a really incredible season, and that mentality hasn't carried through to this year. There does seem to be an issue with, I don't know, motivation or belief, or as you said, self-esteem. So, but we would be exactly the same. The next game is the important game. We'll worry about the derby afterwards. Jan, we've taken up enough of your time, so thank you so much for giving us your Wednesday evening. And I would again just urge anyone to head over to the website at gersnet.co.uk to read the really articulate and well put together preview. Jan, I'd like to be able to wish you luck for the game tomorrow. I know it means as much to you as it does to us, but I can't quite bring myself to do that. But thank you again for giving us your time and giving us your thoughts.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, and good luck to Rangers. I wish we win on Thursday, but for all the other games, good luck. Absolutely.
Thanks, Jan.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Gary, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but
that's all right.
Some really interesting stuff there about how Sparta, some of the things that Jan said that stuck out with me. Sparta, a team that would they want to score more goals than they concede. They're willing to concede goals if they can score more. To a degree, it sounded a bit like Ange Ball. There we go. But the way that their squad is also hampered by injuries, that they're not playing with the motivation, the self-belief that there's a lot of parallels with Rangers. What did you make of Jan's comments there?
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. It was, if you didn't know what team he was talking about, you would think it was us.
Yeah. Even the most successful team, the team with the most trophies, the most historic, the best supported. Yeah, it sounds pretty similar. Gary, the big news of the day is that Connor Goldson hasn't travelled, and what with Philip Hollander being long-term injured and Jack Simpson not being in the Euro squad, it once again leaves us a little bit short at the back. What are our options for completing that back four?
Well, I think that probably the obvious option would just be for Bassey to come into the middle. I was listening to Clyde One earlier, and Andy Halliday had said that when Rangers kind of discovered Bassey was when they played the infamous under-23 game against Leicester, and he was playing as a centre-back at 3. So he can play there. When we signed him, we knew that he could play there or left-back. I'd be very surprised if Rangers went to a back 3. I think we'll keep the same system, but I think considering the players that we've got there, that's probably the most obvious. However, he may throw a wee curveball in and play Leon King, but I'd be very surprised at that. But so I think Bassey's probably the most obvious choice, and it is good that Balogun will be there as well. I know they're ahead to try and talk him through the game.
Yeah, and Balogun's done well, I guess, in the clutch games, in the times when it mattered, and we have been hampered by injuries. I think that's when Balogun has really shown his worth. I'm sure it was the Old Firm that we won earlier this season. He was phenomenal in that game. But Connor Goldson not started the season overly well, as we discussed on Sunday. But if he does drop out and Calvin Bassey comes in, or Leon King, who's done well in his limited first team appearances at the end of last season, but does that chopping and changing to the back line and losing Goldson, does that make you nervous, given what Jan said about Sparta being ultimately an attacking team?
It makes me nervous because I think Goldson's the one guy that Gerrard trusts. He's never ever dropped. But one of the positives there, chopping and changing all the time, is that all these guys have had game time. So it's not like somebody's came in for the calls. Like, remember Walter Smith used to do it. He'd bring in somebody that's never kicked a ball for 6 months, and he'd be thrown at the deep end because there was no other option. But that is one of the positives of squad rotation. Everyone's kind of fresh and knows how other people play. So everyone's had a kind of chance to play together.
Yeah, that's a very sort of silver lining way of looking at it, I suppose. You mentioned chopping and changing, and again we mentioned on Sunday that we've still not settled upon a kind of midfield and front 3 option, whether that's through injuries or through COVID. There does seem to have been quite a lot of rotation. And I think Gerrard has a couple of big decisions to make tomorrow. First decision would possibly be the quarterback, the anchorman role. For you, is this a Stephen Davis game or a John Lundstrom game?
I think it'll be a Steve Davis game. I think that's why Davis didn't play on Sunday. I think we've one eye on this week. But I still think Lundstrom will probably play, maybe a bit further ahead, because I'm not sure if Arfield's injured. And obviously with Kent being out, I think Aribo will play further up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then in the striking positions, there seems to have been a little bit of rotation or trying to fit Kemar Roof and Alfredo Morelos together. Fashion Sakala, another element to think about there. And then you have your Yanis Hadji's, does Aribo play a little bit further forward? Does Scott Wright come in with a little bit of pace, given the comments that Jan's just had there? How would you try and piece all of that together?
Well, when you gave us the agenda for the night, I wrote down a wee team, and I picked Aribo, Morelos and Roof. Especially Roof and Morelos, that's the 2 main guys. So the other option will be on the left side. Yeah, I think he'll go with Aribo. Again, he seems to be a guy that Gerrard likes for these kind of games. Mm-hmm. But in the past, he's thrown curveballs. He might play Brendan Barker. Never seen him for a while, but he's done that in the past. But then, as you say, he might play Scott Wright. But I really think it'll be Aribo. I think it's maybe a bit too early for Sakala as well. I think he's still trying to get hang of the system, but who knows? He's made surprises before in that position, but I can't see it. I think it'll be Aribo.
Yeah, he has. You're right, actually. He has made surprises. I think it was the first Old Firm game of last season. He started Brandon Barker.
I'm sure he played Barker in a European game. It was maybe Porto away, or was it?
You might
Braga away. Maybe I think he played Kent and Barker. So he's been known to do it, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I guess it comes down to. You can trust this management team to have done their homework, right? They know the opposition that they're facing. They'll think about specific threats and how they counter that. And it could come down to silly things like Yanis Hadji has experience of kind of hostile Eastern European environments.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Czech Republic is Eastern European, but and also not that hostile tomorrow, given that there's only 10,000 tickets have been given out to local school kids. So that's certainly not as hostile as it could have been. Gary, in terms of the group, Rangers' aim is always going to be to win the group. I think having seen us up against Lyon a couple of weeks ago, probably all accept that that's a really difficult task now, unless they fall apart. What's your outlook on the group in terms of if the goal is to qualify? How important is the result tomorrow in the context of the overall group?
Well, I think it's starting for Leon last week. I read somewhere that they were actually second favourites for the whole tournament at this point before the Champions League teams drop in. So it's maybe a good thing that we played them first and we're playing them last. So you're hoping that second place will be tied up before we need to go away from home to get a result. I think it was Alex Ferguson always said kind of 9 points you're looking for your group to half a chance. So I think we're going to take something tomorrow. It's not quite a must win, but I think certainly a point is a must. Even just to keep kind of tight to to Prague and also Brøndby round about us, because you'd expect Leon to beat them. So as long as we're kind of there or thereabouts, but we need to win our home games. Definitely win our home games.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think tomorrow's probably a good barometer or a good litmus test as to how do we actually compare against these clubs. Sparta, I remember growing up, Sparta was a huge name in European football. Okay, we've fallen away a wee bit in the last few years, but a really stiff challenge. I guess the final question for you, Gary, is how confident are you?
It comes back to what I've said previously. It's down to us. I know we can play better, and we've not been doing it. If we show up and play like we have in the past against like Porto, Feyenoord, countless teams, Benfica, Braga, if we play like that, it's even away from home. Remember we played Spartak Moscow and should have won. Young Boys, we should have won. If we can play like that away from home, there's no reason we can't win. But at the same time, we need to be wary because we got put out for a team for Prague last year, who were a really good team. Also, Sparta Prague, their reserve team scudded Celtic, who at that point had won 11 trophies on the bounce. So it's certainly not a team we should take lightly.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's you look back at our last 4 seasons of Europe and some of the away days that we've had. I mean, going right back to getting a point out in Villarreal through to the away days in Porto. One of my favourite ones was Midtjylland or Willem II out in Holland. We've had some phenomenal results. Braga, phenomenal results on the road. So, I think given the start of the season that we've had, the performances we've put in, the disappointment against Malmo, it feels like tomorrow could be a real important kind of kickstart to the season if we manage to pull out one of those performances. That kind of, I think, wraps things up for us tonight. The only thing that I'd repeat is please do, if you haven't done so already, please do head over to the website at www.gersnet.co.uk and have a look at the really excellent and articulate match preview that Jan, who was on the podcast earlier, has contributed there. It's well worth your time having a wee read of that. A massive thank you, of course, to Gary for giving up his Wednesday evening, and to everyone who's joined us on the YouTube stream or who then downloads the show afterwards. It is always much appreciated. The show will, of course, be back on Sunday. I'll be hosting that again. We'll be looking back at the Sparta game, but also then looking back, I should say, on the Rangers versus Hibs game that's taking place on Sunday afternoon. So please do join us for that. That's Sunday, 9 p.m. on the Gersnet YouTube channel, or as always, available for download the Monday morning, wherever you get your podcast from. Until then, I really do hope you enjoy the game tomorrow and have a great second half of your week.